It's actually such a crazy coincidence, the moon and the sun are the same size in the sky. I wish I could find the original comment, but a Redditor remarked that this and eclipses as a result of this were sufficiently rare distinctive that if we ever joined a sort of intergalactic United Nations, we could use it as a flag design or a selling point for Earth tourism. And that there's only a single moon. That in itself is highly unusual. 400 times further away, 400 times bigger. It really is interesting. However, we just happen to be alive during the period that his holds true. The moon used to be a lot closer to Earth, and it's gradually moving further away a tiny bit at a time. Eventually this observation will no longer be true, the way it wasn't true in the distant past. You can harmlessly look at the sun when you put on the welder mask, and when I did that, the sun appeared to be, at least to my shitty judgment, a bit smaller than moon. It's the brightness that makes the sun appear bigger. Obviously it's because the moon was artificially constructed by an ancient race of lizard people who used the interior of the moon as a base with a soul-harvesting antenna on the surface of the dark side. I mean, what else could explain it? Nothing, I say, nothing. It's also a coincidence that we exist in a time period where the moon and the sun appear in the sky as the same size. Yeah, it's actually insane, and I wonder if it is something which occurs often out there in the universe. Maybe one day when aliens visit our planet, they will be astounded by it, like, how did you guys do that? You mean, it's a coincidence? What the fuck? Assuming they can speak English, that is. Otherwise it might just be like a garbled noise, like listening to a bird sing and trying to figure out what it is saying. BRRPTTWWRTTWRTBRPPRPPRPPRP hair? What's that? You know. This size match is entirely unique so far as we know, probably not actually unique across the vastness of the universe, but from what we can currently see. We've not found any other moon-planet-sun combo that fits such a perfect solar eclipse. Genuinely, it's the one thing that might convince me that the Abrahamic God is real, but not one single religious person has ever brought it up to me, so that's just my little secret P. Coincidence? I think not. On flat Earth model, they are same sizes. Moon's rotation is also perfectly aligned to its revolution, so we only see the one face of it. Not really. It's more a crazy coincidence that you were born at such a time that they're the same size. The distance has been changing slowly over millennia, so at one point the moon would have seemed larger, and eventually it will be smaller. I can't look at the sun long enough to use it as a benchmark. Aliens made this planet long ago. Also that the moon is tidally locked. Well, it's not a coincidence. The moon was engineered and placed there by our creators, the Anunnaki. What, dude? The sun turns into the moon at night. Why wouldn't it be the same size? We also have an abnormally large moon relative to the planet's size. I believe this is often cited as a proof of religion. It's so unlikely. I think about this all the time. I think it's the best evidence or proof that we have a creator of some sort. Not discounting the decent possibility we are in a simulation. They built the moon like that. Beyond odds that the human mind can comprehend. 1 in a sukaduka fucking zillion. Maybe it's not a coincidence. That depends on the time of year. The Earth's orbit isn't perfectly round, so sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. I use this as a response when people say certain things couldn't possibly be a coincidence. I mean, this is a pretty cosmic coincidence that proves it. Wonder how mythology would have changed if either was significantly different in size. It's just like Earth being in the perfect distance from the sun, so water remains liquid. There must be tens of thousands of Earth-like planets out there that doesn't have the right kind of sun and moon positioning that keeps it from forming any life. Earth is one of those few 0.0001 planets that achieved this just from pure accident. The moon has been moving away, it used to be much bigger. There. Not, though. It really is. The fact that circumference distance from Earth visual size in our sky, but take into account that this has happened on a cosmic scale, really is crazy. But when you add in the fact that if it wasn't like this, if we were further from closer to the sun by a few million miles, which isn't that much on a cosmic scale, if the moon was smaller, bigger, etc., life on Earth might not have existed, or at the very least, would have been quite different. Even the size and location of the other planets in our solar system played a role in the development of life on Earth. It's a crazy coincidence that anything exists at all. Yeah, word TBH, lol. I saw someone once bring up that it technically supports the theory that we're in a simulation. BC, it's too much of a coincidence, but simultaneously the moon sometimes appears different sizes at different times. This means we get both total and annular eclipses, depending on the Earth-Moon separation distance, which varies a little as the Moon orbits, and the Earth-Sun separation distance, which varies a little as the Earth orbits. And if the distances are exactly right, we get a hybrid eclipse that is total in some places and annular in others. It is, scientists point out that they only can align for a few thousand years, and eventually it'll only be partial eclipses. Oh damn, an actual interesting shower thought. What happened to this place? Just today at a bookstore I read the plot of a popular science book by John Gribbin's 8 Improbabilities Possibilities, which discussed this exact matter. I don't know how it explained it, but this post is encouraging me to purchase the book, haha. What's even more crazy is that humanity exists at the exact perfect time to enjoy this phenomenon. The moon is slowly shifting away from Earth, so if we were a little earlier or later, using little in the loosest sense here, in a geological timescale, the moon would have either been too big so we wouldn't get the perfect halo effect, or too small so the moon wouldn't cover the sun perfectly. We're definitely living in a simulation, so stop prodding the masters before they shut it down. You say coincidence, but we probe only just one of infinite Earths. It's crazy how influential this is on ancient religions, duality, and myths in general. Just the fact that life developed on this planet to observe it is mind-blowing. I kinda get why people are spiritual, this is just adding to it, lol. Nothing really spiritual about it on its own, but I've seen an absurd amount of coincidences in my short 2 decades of life. Is that normal? IDK, I don't want to get into any arguments. If anyone wants to discuss it, no, I have my skepticism as well. I would enjoy knowing more statistics, facts. I always thought including science was important. Moon is clearly a holo megastructure. A giant space ball-bearing snake could make it fall to Earth any day now. If you want to test this, stare at the sun for 20 minutes uninterrupted, then at night you will still be able to see it burned onto your retina, and compare the size. That, along with the moon being tidal locked, seem like rendering performance optimizations in the simulation. This is really making some huge assumptions, but maybe it's not coincidence. Maybe it is a necessity of any stable, life-hosting planet to have a moon and sun in a ratio that provides a balance of tide and heat. And this becomes more of an anthropic principle type of observation. The same way it's not really a coincidence that we live on a perfect planet for life. It's not a coincidence. At all. It was an inevitability, we're just lucky to be at the right era to see it. I know, right? At the time window. Humans are living when the moon isn't too close or too far away for good total eclipses. The moon was closer millions of years ago. It's not a coincidence. God made it that way. Perfectly placed for our tides, seasons, migration patterns. It is perfect. It's crazy that some people don't believe God exists and think things like this are just coincidences. It's almost as if someone designed it that way. Well, they are. Anybody can see that. Anyone who thinks the moon wasn't created by a past civilization is so clueless. Not really. It's more a coincidence we're here to observe it.